Earthbound feels so ahead of its time, man. So many times throughout this game, it felt like I was playing a modern indie RPG. Which kinda makes sense, because the modern indie RPG scene owes a lot to Earthbound. Omori, Yik, Lisa, South Park The Stick of Truth for some reason? When I woke up this morning, I definitely wasn't expecting to learn that Trey Parker is an Earthbound fan. Regardless, so many games have been inspired by Earthbound, and honestly, I was a bit worried going into it. I've seen so many movies and shows and games throughout my years that were so influential back in the day, but they just don't quite hold up to modern sensibilities. The Seinfeld is unfunny thing. Something releases and feels incredibly original. Then a bunch of creations inspired by that original thing come out and dilute the market. What made the original piece of media special doesn't seem so special anymore. I had a hunch that Earthbound might fall into that. Needless to say, I was wrong. Welcome to Best RPG Ever, and this is Earthbound. This video will be spoiler-free. We're not even going to have a spoiler section for this game. I don't need one. Pretzel merch. At pretzel.cc, you can finally buy some pretzel-branded stuff. A super cool hat, a mug, and of course, shirts. Proudly proclaim your status as a pretizen to everyone in public as you wear these stylish shirts. Look at these spots, aren't they cool? Mosey on over to pretzel.cc. Use code TAKEMYSOUL to save 10% off your order for the next 7 days. Don't worry about what the code means, just type it in. Pretzel.cc, code TAKEMYSOUL to save 10%. Okay, enough of that nonsense. This is a video about Earthbound. First, we'll talk about the gameplay. This is the first RPG I'm covering that doesn't really have a lot going on gameplay-wise. It's your classic turn-based RPG. There's no monster capturing mechanic, no special meters to manage in battle, no big mechs to customize and fly around with. You just take turns attacking the enemy. Physical attacks, magic attacks that use PP, that's it. I guess some of the party members do have something going on. Like how Jeff can't use magic and has to rely on items for special attacks, or how Pooh requires special items to heal instead of the normal ones like the other party members. Big picture though, it's kinda bland, which I like. I've been kinda craving a classic RPG like this. There's something I love about just a no-frills turn-based game. I don't even like tactics games where you have to manage your party's position on the field. Just give me some enemy portraits and have us go at it. There was only like one point where I really felt like I needed to grind. Or maybe I didn't even need to, I just wanted to. I know grinding is something people bring up with a lot of older RPGs, but I don't notice it too much in general. I tend to stay away from the NES RPGs though, it might be real bad over there. There are a couple of annoying bits with this being an older game though. Things that you could easily see being quality of life away in a modern remake. For instance, there's the money you have on your person and the money you have stashed in your bank account. Money you have on you is cut in half when you die. So what that led to me doing is basically carrying no money on me at all times and depositing all that I have whenever I can. Then I'd only take out money when it was time to buy stuff and deposit what was left over. It's an extra hurdle that doesn't really do anything. It just kinda wastes time going through the menus, depositing and withdrawing money. I don't know what a solution to this would be, but having all that doesn't really feel important to the experience of Earthbound, if that makes sense. Also, inventory management. That's always a problem in RPGs that give you anything less than unlimited carrying space. If you want to store something, you have to call your sister from a payphone. She'll send someone to pick the item up you want to deposit, and then you give it to them. If you want to deposit more than 3 items, you need to call her and do it again. There's a lot of little time wasters like that just kind of bring the experience of playing the game down. But from an in-world perspective, I understand it. Your dad deposits money into your bank account, and your sister helps with item storage. To take out both of those systems would remove a bit of the connection between Ness and his family. I get it, but it's also kind of annoying. Honestly, that's about it. The raw act of playing this game is relatively simple. It doesn't do a lot to impress, but it doesn't do a lot to bring you down. I love simple turn-based RPGs, so that really worked for me here. The pacing. This is something that usually sticks out to me more in games I've covered so far. Earthbound isn't a particularly long or short game. I beat it in 22 hours. I guess it speaks to the quality of the pacing that I didn't think about it much. During some games, I'll really notice when a game's starting to lose my attention, but I never felt that with Earthbound. There was never a point during the story where I felt like truly dropping it and moving on to another game. So yeah, good on you, Earthbound, for having good pacing. Guess we'll move right into the story now. I really like the premise. You being a little boy heading out on an adventure because of a fly that time traveled to the past and told you what to do. Then you go out across the world, recruiting a couple friends to help defeat the big bad Gigas. So many JRPGs end with you fighting crazy powerful entities, but it's funny that you're just little kids this time. You aren't some knight trained in the way of the sword, or a mage who spent decades studying spells. You're a little kid, hitting things with your baseball bat. Regarding Gigas though, I feel like the game doesn't do enough to really build him up as a compelling villain. The game pushes you to new environments pretty consistently, but it feels like the stakes don't really ramp up accordingly. And yeah, not every game needs to have world-ending stakes, but it seems like that's what they were going for here. Gigas is the embodiment of evil. Outside of the final dungeon, you don't really feel that. You come across a ton of bad guys, but they don't all feel like they're connected to Gigas. While I did have that problem, the pacing of the game still didn't bother me. I guess the segmented interactions in all the towns is what kept me going, not the big picture universe-ending stuff. Honestly, that's it for story stuff too. And now we'll breeze through the characters. The next section is where we're going to spend a lot of time. As much as I hate to say it, I didn't feel super connected with the party in this game. In other JRPGs like Xenoblade Chronicles, or even some Super Nintendo ones like Final Fantasy V, there's a lot of interaction between party members. They talk to each other, and through what they say, you learn about them. Your party barely talks in this game. Basically, the only time they do talk is when they join the party. Literally the only time I can remember Pooh talking is when he joins the party and the end of the game. Because of that, I don't really know who these people are. Paula is the one that talks the most between the four of these guys, mostly when she does her telepathic stuff, but I don't know anything about her. She's 11 years old. What toys does she like? How does she do in school? She funny? None of these kids really seem like one to crack a joke, except for maybe Ness. I can't say it's a of its time thing. Final Fantasy V came out 2 years before this, and that killed with the characters. Even Final Fantasy IV did, and it came out a year before that. My point is, it just feels weird. I'm used to parties in JRPGs having a lot of back and forths, really developing the chemistry of a small group over the course of the game. But you don't see that here. If you've watched any of the other videos in this series, you know a game having bad characters will tank it for me. Characters are what I care about most in RPGs. I have such a hard time connecting with the game if the characters don't resonate with me. But there's one thing that kept me going. This final section is the wild card. It's where I talk about an aspect of the game that didn't quite fit into the other sections. What kept me going through Earthbound was the charm. This game is so damn charming. And I knew it would be before playing, but actually going through and experiencing it myself, it kinda shocked me. This game surprisingly holds up writing-wise. At a certain point during my playthrough, I started writing down moments that just made me smile. I'll list off some of my favorites here. Partway through the game, it's likely you'll notice that Ness will start getting distracted in battle, thinking about food or maybe even how he misses his family. That kinda caught me off guard, because it randomly appeared 10 hours into my playthrough. Halfway through the game, it just decides to drop this homesick debuff on you if you're unlucky. Either calling your mom or visiting her in person will clear it up. It's not a huge barrier to overcome or anything, it's just a cute moment that grounds the party. Despite how strong they are and all that they go through, they're still just little kids, and they miss their parents. I guess there is some characterization there. In the same dungeon I had that happen to me in, you have to fight 5 giant moles. The first one I talked to said he was the 3rd strongest. Alright, that's somewhat doable. Would have been scary to fight the strongest right off the bat. Then I find the next mole, and apparently he's the third strongest. You know what? I get the joke already. I don't need to see that. Yep. That's great. They're all the third strongest. That's a great bit. There's a village later into the game full of a bunch of shy creatures. They just say they're shy. That's it. You have to go on a mini adventure to find a book about overcoming shyness. Once you give it to them, they all start talking to you. I love that you were able to help out a whole village through such simple means. They just needed a book to show them the way, and they're so grateful. Partway through your adventure, you're given a little intermission where you get to read a text crawl. This genuinely surprised me. I wasn't expecting the game to get so real. It's kind of a recap of where you are right now and what you have to look forward to later. This really hits home just how far you've come and solidifies the feeling that you're on an adventure. And even beyond just what it means to Ness the character, it feels like you, the player, are being spoken to directly. One thing you must never lose is courage. If you believe the goal you are striving for, you will be courageous. Though there are many difficult times ahead, you must keep your sense of humor, work through the tough situations, and enjoy yourself. Those are words to live by, man. I've spent a lot of time talking about how funny this game can be, but it can also get so real. It effortlessly bounces between being hilarious and incredibly thoughtful. It reminds me of another game. I mean, you know what I'm thinking of. Hey, I was able to hold back my Toby Fox talk in an Earthbound video until after the 10-minute mark. I deserve an award for that. It was so hard to not think about Undertale and Deltarune while playing Earthbound. I obviously knew Toby was inspired by Earthbound, but I didn't know to what degree until after playing it myself. The jokes in this game feel right out of Deltarune. I guess that's part of why it feels so modern to me. Deltarune is just Earthbound, but modernized. The charm of those games are why I love them so much, and it was great to be able to feel a similar feeling in a game that came out 3 decades ago. There's one particular moment that felt super similar to what Toby would do. It's my favorite moment in the game, and maybe one of my favorites in any RPG. I lied at the beginning. I'm going to do a spoiler warning for this. This really resonated with me in 2025. I can't imagine what it did to people back in the 90s. Skip to this timecode if you haven't played Earthbound yet, but are meaning to. Waiting for any stragglers to skip ahead? Okay. When you're in Summers during the latter half of the game, you get a random call from Jeff's friend Tony. He says he's collecting player names for a school project. You know, players just like you. That's right, you, the one holding the controller. And then he asks you to enter your name. There have been some fourth wall breaks up to this point, like one character acknowledging that Earthbound is a video game. But pointing out the player directly and asking for their name no less? It's surprising. And that's it. He hangs up shortly afterwards without elaborating. You go about your journey, not knowing what was just set in motion. Later in Tenda Village, you're asked to confirm your name. You can see I pause here because it threw me off. I kind of forgot I entered my name earlier. It had been like 4 or 5 hours since then. You confirm your name and move on. Yet again, it is not elaborated upon. Like before, I immediately forget the game asked me to do that. It was like me typing my name in was erased from my memory. Eventually, the fight with the unstoppable Gigas begins. Attacking like normal is useless. There's only one thing you can do. Pray. Paula uses her telepathic powers to reach out to all the people she met throughout the journey and asks them to pray for her. Her parents, Jeff's friends, people from Pooh's village, Frank for some reason, Ness's family, and then Paula can't think of anyone else. She calls out for someone, anyone to help her. Yet her call was absorbed by the darkness. She tries again, asking for someone's strength. You can feel her desperation. And then, I freeze here. This illegible name prayed for the kids, having never met them before. Paula calls out again. The person kept praying. She calls again. They keep praying. In a final desperate move, she calls out once more. Preston kept praying. It was obvious that's where it was going. It'd be hard not to realize that it was my name when it first showed the censored name earlier in the fight. But seeing it spelled out like that, seeing the name slowly reveal over the course of multiple turns, it hit hard. The line about me praying for the kids despite never having met them before resonates so well with me. That is why I play video games. It made me feel something. Like I said earlier, I wasn't super into the characters of this game, but Paula literally drags me into the world of Earthbound. She called out to everyone she could think of, and it still wasn't quite enough to defeat Gigas. But there was one person she had left, one person she didn't even realize was there, someone that had been with her throughout the whole journey. Me. I could see other people thinking that's super corny, but I truly loved it. Gaming, to me, is all about the emotions that are evoked within you while playing them. And this moment made me feel things. This is Earthbound's best moment. Okay, enough spoilers. Time to move on to the ranking. I'm kinda conflicted trying to rank this, because, as I've said, the characters aren't super well defined, and characters are usually my North Star when it comes to deciding how to rank a game. But the charm of this game almost completely makes me forget about all that. I don't really care that the relationship between Ness and Jeff, Ness and Pooh, or Jeff and Pooh was never explored. I was content to just go from town to town, talking to all the NPCs and seeing what weird little situations they got into. The heart of Earthbound isn't really with the party, but more so with the world and all its inhabitants. Here's the games I've ranked so far. It's obviously above Xenoblade Chronicles X in my mind. But is it above the original Xenoblade Chronicles? That's tough. Xenoblade Chronicles did some amazing work with the characters. It's one of my favorite RPGs solely because of that. Earthbound didn't do so well in that aspect, but it's good in other ways. It's hard to compare the two in my mind. I guess, in totality, I think I prefer Xenoblade Chronicles. While I do think this game is hilarious at times, and occasionally super meaningful, like with the moment I described in the spoiler section, as a complete experience, Xenoblade Chronicles resonates with me more, but it's close. And in my mind, there's a large gap between Xenoblade Chronicles X and Earthbound here. A lot of games will fit nicely in this spot. Alright, that's it for Earthbound. Stay tuned, because up next on the Pretzel channel, we're going back to a classic franchise. We'll be exploring the beautifully segmented world of Ivalice from Final Fantasy XII. See you next time, Pretisans.